Shalom, blessings everybody. So today video is gonna be about how to apply the legend to the map. The map being all of scripture, Eastern thought and Western thought, merging of the two into one because there is no two, there is only one. Seemingly many, but only one. We seem as individuals, but we are one being. At the very core, we are one. We are not many different beings. We are one, fragmented into varying degrees of emanations of light. So I want to just start by thanking the Most High for allowing me to see another day of my manifestation, for making it around the sun again and facing him again after going around the throne for 30 years. I have been here now, and the awakening, it's hitting different. We're gonna get into reincarnation and things as well, and how we might be reincarnated energy because energy cannot die. So we're gonna look into the Zohar and all these things because this is what has been coming to me, and we're gonna look into a lot of scriptures of self-realization. But because the Lord has blessed me with another year of life, I want to open up with the blessing for all of Yasharal. Yahuwah bless you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Yasharael, and I will bless them. So the putting on of the name, there's a significance in that scripture from number 6. The putting on of the name is the becoming of the Most High. You shouldn't be afraid of this and of walking like this because this is what was expected of us. It was commanded of us. Do these things because we were told we will do greater things than him. We will live life abundantly. He did not say that all these things, these greater things, and the life of abundance would come in the year after. No, he did not denote it that way. We are to live life abundantly now, and we are to do the greater works now. The greater works are things of self-realization. It's of delving into your own shadow work to do your own transmutation of your negative energies and thought forms and transmuting them into light. For we are emanations of light. And we're going to talk about what the darkness really is as well. Because we need to understand things from an esoterical standpoint. But more, we need to understand what this form that we are in for this temporary dispensation of time, what this form means, how this form relates to the rest of creation, because everything comes from one source. We are the essence of that source. The darkness is not what we are told it is. Don't be afraid of the darkness. The background picture that we got up is a picture of Jesus and Osiris. There's a reason for that. There's a reason that I chose that. It's because it is two images or two dispensations of time, right? The current time that we are in and the previous time or the time that we come from, the last matrix that we were put into. These two are archetypal form. They are suits that can be put on and interacted with and moved in. So we're going to look into the commission system and what it actually was about. What were they trying to imitate or to put into manifestation? What was their ultimate goal? And was the ultimate goal what you are seeking now? Was the ultimate goal something that you now have the authority to walk in and to interact with and to be? Are you willing to step into this type of movement in your life? Are you willing to change your systems or programs that have been put into you by outside sources to adapt your belief into the emanations of light and truth? So BC this video the other day, yesterday I think it was, with Brother Sanchez, and then you were saying something about the covering cherub, and that it was actually touching on my message, and I was like, okay, thank you for this, because this is another confirmation to me that I can speak on these things now. Now there are more that are in tune and aligned with this. There are more that are ready for this. But a warning to all from the Zohar, which is a Kabbalistic application of, it's a Kabbalistic application onto the Torah. It's looking into the Torah in a different light, with a different understanding, to gain an experience rather than intellect, because intellect is not going to save you. Intellect is good, but intellect is not the ultimate goal. An experience of the Supreme is your ultimate goal. An understanding of your own, and a formulation of your own truth, and to become what we once were. Because in the year after, what will you be if not light? You might be a celestial body, which the earth is turning into right now. It is going from a terrestrial body into a celestial body. This is the upgrades that are happening to the earth. But while these things are happening to the earth, what is happening to you? For you are both celestial and terrestrial. So what is happening to you while these upgrades are taking place upon the earth? If you watch my previous videos, you will see my skin tone was way lighter than this. I've been working in the sun for the last month and a half. Now my skin doesn't burn, it darkens. The melanin being activated. I don't get sunburn. My skin doesn't dry. I don't use lotions or sun protection things. I don't use those type of things. Yet my skin does not damage. What is it that is sustaining me? Well, I say it is the light, because everything outside me is only a reflection of me. Therefore, the sun rays cannot harm me, for I am those rays. All that rays are doing is healing, it's upgrading, it is putting back into understanding what I have projected out. So it is coming with the solutions to the questions. This is the forces of nature that is at your disposal. But a lot of people don't understand this, because they've been taught that everything outside of them is external, It's not a part of them. It is separate from them. How is it separate? How is it separate if you, as man, are the micro of the macrocosm? How would it be separate? Everything out here in you, everything you have ever needed is in you. So, just a warning from the Zohar. Two brothers who penetrated into and attained the knowledge of the secret doctrine, concealed within its esoteric covering. So here this thing is telling you straight up, it's a covering. It's another veil. Why are they veiling it? Because only those with an eye to see will see beyond the veil, beyond the covering. And those with ears to hear will be able to hear the secret messages that are coming forth in layman's terms as it is being spoken. Because even when I am interpreting, there is a certain veil upon those things that I am saying, even though I am taking off veil. There is still a certain veil that is being applied. That veil might be, for example, from my own persona. There might be a hint of egoism polluting those things. I am not perfect. I am not perfect. It is on you to discern the truth from the illusion. For Maya, our mother, Sophia, right, does these things to test you. Nothing is insignificant. To test the illusions of Maya or to see how much your consciousness has elevated. And at most times when these tests come, the Most High takes away everything that you have learned so that you can go based on experience. So your intellect is taken away from you during your test to see if the spirit has been incorporated within your consciousness as your consciousness. So when they penetrated into this esoteric covering, by their wrong use of it, they found it a curse instead of a blessing. Whilst a rabbi to a rabbi, it became a blessing and a source of joy, tranquility, and power. So all this is saying to you is based on your perception. Your perception is what determines all these things. Nothing is outside of your perception. You are the screen of consciousness, the projector of consciousness, and the projection of consciousness. These three things seemingly separate and seemingly individualized are one. Just like the waking state, right, of your everyday life when you wake up during the day or to start off your day. And then at night, you go into a dream state. And from that dream state, before you get to your waking state again, there is a period of time of a deep sleep state. Now, this three states of being, we know it to be an eternal thing for man, seemingly different again, yet one. For this all takes place and is experienced within the one body, one house of every individual. Therefore, we can say that we are not separate beings, but one. For we all follow the same three eternal states at different rate, frequency, speed. whatever you, however you want to term it. But yet, we all confess to being awake during the day, to dreaming at night, and then before waking up, being in a deep sleep state where there was nothingness. Now, this deep sleep state is it is your core state, it is your essence, it is your true state of being. Because in this, all things are possible. And it is in this state that the body is rejuvenated, that the body is healed, that the cells are replenished, and that the aches and pains are dealt with. But they can also be increased and they can be diminished. It's all in the state of the mind of the God who is ordaining these things, who is putting these things into place. For everything is the play of God. Yet, on free will, you choose the direction, path. But there is no path and there is no direction to move in. For everything is here now. Nothing is ever there. It's always in a here state. For only when it is here can it be seen, can it be understood, can it be interacted with as a entity or as a form of consciousness that can be experienced. Can consciousness taste itself only when it is here? Consciousness does not experience itself over there. That is why it is written. When they say the kingdom is here, is there, in the sky, the birds will precede you. Don't believe them when they tell you these things. When they tell it to you that it's in the sea, the fish will precede you. Rather, it is in you. So in that understanding, everything is in you. So if everything is contained within the kingdom of heaven, and the kingdom of heaven is within you, is everything not contained within you? There's a reason they keep pumping certain things into your mind's eye, like the mark of the beast and things, the number 6. There's a reason for this. And in the esoterical sciences, we understand this to be because we are the 6th emanation of light. We are created on the 6th day. So being the 6th emanation of light, we make it threefold. And we take it to the end of the infinite of 6. But it does not mean that we stay there. For we are to transmute and transcend these things. How do we transmute and transcend these things? Only by acceptance of certain things, like your own darkness, your own shortcomings. You have to accept these things and move past them, transcend them. And through these 3 states of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, there is only one being that it could be, and that is Christ. Christ is an energy. Christ is a form of consciousness. It's an emanation of the higher light being divulged into the lower light and experienced in the lower light and bringing the lower light up into the higher light. This is what you are to do when it comes to certain things. We need to create a taste for the Ruach, because we are programmed to only taste and interact with what we can physically see, what we can physically taste and feel. Thus, we ignore the spiritual side of things. We tend not to explore these things because we are told by grace it is dealt with, by grace it is done. No, There is work for you to do. So we see that in the Egyptian system, they mark certain things with a monument, right? And the monuments were aligned with certain celestial things. For instance, the pyramids of Giza was aligned with the belt of Orion, right? And there's a reason why it is put where it is put along the river Nile. That is because 10,000 years prior to them putting those things there, according to antiquity, I'm not saying these dates are right, but according to antiquity, 10,000 years prior, the belt of Orion and the Milky Way rift aligned perfectly at that particular point along the river Nile. The river Nile representing the Milky Way space rift. The crossing of the waters would have taken place when you cross out of the Milky Way galaxy that is crossing over the waters. Right? So this is also why Moses goes north. It's a symbology for going upward or going higher to a higher level on the terrestrial, and then crossing the northern part of the Nile represents crossing the living waters. So when he did it on the terrestrial, his spirit was doing it in the heaven. So he crossed the living waters. When he was sent down the river Nile, it was symbology of him crossing the living waters into the flesh realm of manifestation, the temporary existence, the finite of the infinite. This is just some different perspectives on things that I've previously covered, but with a new understanding and an elevated consciousness, things seem so much different now than what it was just a few months ago. So the crossing of the waters and the significance of the Nile is this. It's because it is in alignment with the waters of death and the waters of life. It is in alignment with this, and this is why so much took place on the terrestrial along the river Nile. It is not that they were superior to anybody. No, they were placed at a significant terrestrial spot that matched a celestial spot of big significance. So it's not for the commissions to think that they are superior. Because in Ezekiel 29, we see what happened to them for lording it over people, that they were the chosen to be civilized around the waters of life, claiming that they created the river Nile, thus claiming that they created the Milky Way space and that it was theirs. We see because they did this, they were brought down and scattered, just like Israel was scattered. They were scattered. Why were they scattered? Because they needed to be humbled. They needed to see that it was not them. that did these things, but he that has placed them over there. It was never them. It was always he. And then we see in towards the end of Ezekiel 29, he gathers them up again and he places them there again. But this time he says they will not do what they previously did, for they have been humbled and corrected. We see in Ezekiel 28, this is what Brother PC mentioned yesterday, that I wasn't sure if I should talk about it, the covering cherub being the body, the carrier of the throne, and how you were there in the garden, and you walked upon the fiery stones, the stones of fire. Yes, you were there. You still are there, because there is here. The Garden of Eden is within you. Everything is within you. The covering cherub is the body, and it will be taken off. And we see that the Prince of Persia in Ezekiel 28, he was wise, but what did he do that caused condemnation upon him was that he sold this wisdom to whoever would buy what he was selling. And the Lord said to him, he will send unto him people, and they will raise their sword at his wisdom. And saying that he is a God, he will die a man. There's a significance here. Did you forget what Psalm said? Ye are all gods, sons of the living God, yet ye will die as men. So you see, it is just showing you the wrong way and the right way. The reason the Gentiles who put your books together, who is in charge of most of these things for, they have been appointed a time to rule over the earth, and their time is over, and they know this. But while they were in charge, or when they started, they selected things to put in. So they put in all these doomsday prophecies, expecting you not to awaken. Lucky for you, there are star seeds out here. There are children of light out here who have started awakening and started aligning these things, started putting everything in its ordinance as it should be. So yes, we understand now why they put in all these doomsday prophecies. It's because they wanted to deter you from awakening the God in you and incarnating the God into flesh, awakening the flesh to the spirit. It's not a spiritual awakening. The spirit has always been awake. It is the flesh that has been asleep to the spirit. Now the flesh will wake up to spiritual truth, and spiritual things will be seen with fleshed eyes. But first, the spiritual eyes need to be opened. These things are all warnings, but the warning needs to be heeded. So when coming into wisdom like this, don't ever lord it over anybody. Don't lord it over anybody. For that will cause condemnation upon you. It will cause you to be brought down. And claiming that you are God is wrong to an extent, but it is still correct. But yet when you do this, you limit God, the omnipresent God, the all, the supreme self, to only you. So now it is no longer supreme, for you have limited it to you. When you say God is the tree, or the grass, or the sky, you limit God only to that. What about the rest of creation? Thus, there will always be a subtle renunciation in place. It's neither this nor that. It just is. Plain and simple. It just is. It is neither this nor that. It just is. So, what other clues have they left us? The name Jesus, when you split it, right? 5-letter word, 5-letter name. So the first three would be Jess, and the last two would be us. Now, Jess is short for Jesse, which is the father of David. Therefore, he said, howbeit that David, the father of Hamashiach, if you see his name, even if you look at other translations, it says Isaiah, Isha. So we see now how they have left clues as to where God is, who God is, but it is us that have been scared. It is us that thought if we do, we will be stepping out of bounds. We will be going against the Spirit. No. When we do step up, when we do step in, and we do make these bold claims, for that is what they are, we embrace and we accept the Spirit that is in us. For fighting the Spirit in you is what they want you to do. They want you to be divided against yourself. They're not dividing you against others. They are dividing you against yourself. Because nobody stops you or can stop you from opening up any book, going into and penetrating any school of thought. No man on this earth can stop you from doing that. It is you that stops you. So why don't you take the responsibility for your soul and your spirit that has been given to you? Why sleepest thou, O Lord? Arise from the dead, and let Christ's light shine upon thee. Significant words that people read with joy in their heart, they accept it not. I don't understand how you can read all these things about yourself to yourself and not know that it is you. I wrote something down here that the book, any book of spiritual inspiration, is not a history book, but a now, an unfolding, a living word. How is it a living word if it is about dead things, things that have been and no longer are? You are now here. So how is it not about you if you are living and you are emanation of this light? How is it not about you? know who you worship. And how are you going to know who you worship if you don't know yourself? You put limitations and statuses onto how you should be. Know and accept even the worst of yourself. Bring unification within yourself, and there will be no dispute outside. There will be no enemy outside. Once the enemy is neutralized within, there is no longer an enemy. We're going to look into the Midrash and how the book of Jonah was actually an inward dive. And Jonah stood at the throne of his soul. We're going to see all these things. Today we are going to learn deeper things than we ever thought possible. It is time to move from the 666 carbon base into the 999 ether crystalline base of being. It's time to be the conduit of life. Shalom. Walaikum salam, brother. So it's time to be this conduit. It's time to become the Godhead. For we know we are the sixth emanation of light. This is why you cannot escape the fact that you are marked 666. Because in this emanation of light, this is a mark that is put onto you. For it marks the light that is being emanated. It is not a bad thing. Giving into it though, and glorifying it as though it is the higher light, or the greater light, or the true light. That is where it becomes a bad thing. But you have this, but yet you need to transcend this. You can stay in this space. You can stay in this emanation of light, or you can choose to move further, to ascend and transcend these things. So it's not to believe in the sun, because you are the sun. So we don't believe in, we believe as. We put on the name of, we pray as, and we believe as, not in. We put on these names. This is the difference between what was taught in the walls of Kemet and what was taught within your resurrection story. This is the difference. In Kemet, or Egypt, as the Grecians called it, their whole system that they had was based on the belief that in the year after, they will put on the body of Osiris. They will become the embodiment of Osiris. They will become the god Osiris. Alright? So they had to wait for death for this thing. I got a few things I want to read from the papyruses of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the papyrus of Ani to be exact, who was a scribe to the Pharaoh. This was in This was closer to the fall of Egypt. This was in the time when the Book of the Dead was no longer only for the royals, for the pharaoh, but it was being sold to those who could afford it, and to some of those who were entitled or were seen as worthy of getting this for their servitude to the pharaoh. So the scribe of the pharaoh, who was writing all these things, never had his own Book of the Dead. So what happened was he started to save up all his money. It took him a year's wages or more to get a copy of what he has already written for the pharaoh. So we see in his papyrus, he gets asked, who is this? And then he needs to answer the question. This is as he is going through the underworld, through the different chambers, as he's making his journey to paradise or to the heaven. Right? So he's putting on these different gods. He is becoming all of them. He's emanating them to pass through their walls, through the walls, through their chambers, because only they could pass through. Only certain emanations of light were allowed to pass through and continue. If you did not know these things, eternal life was not yours. So we see he gets asked, who is this? He to whom the earth crown has been given, with gladness of heart as the Lord, Ensu is Osiris. He was bidden to rule among the gods on the day of the union of the earth with earth, in presence of Nebuchadnezzar. Now, earth with earth. Earth with earth means on the day of your death, on the day that your body is put back into the earth, the day that this piece of earth is reunited with earth. So you see, he says, it is Osiris. Then he's asked again, who is this? He who aspiring to rule among the gods is the son of Isis, Haru, who was appointed to rule in the room of his father, Osiris. As concerning the word, day of the union of earth with earth, they have reference to the union of earth with earth in the coffin of Asa, the soul that liveth in the Hensu, the giver of meat and drink, the destroyer of wrong, the guide to the everlasting path. Who is this? He's asked again. It is Ra himself, deliverer, deliver thou, the Osiris, the scribe, Ani. Now you see, he says first, it is Ra himself. And then he says to the deliverer, to deliver the Osiris, the scribe Ani. So he is now one with Osiris. Seemingly two different things. This is just for imagery. that they are separating it like that, so that you know who it is that is being delivered. So it goes on and it says, whose word is truth. But now you know that he's putting on the suit of Osiris. You know he's putting on this God so that he can pass through the chambers and make it into eternal life. So it says his word is truth. Why does it say this? Because what he's doing is not against the law. What he is doing is not against his soul. It is not against his purpose. For he was temporarily in the finite manifestation, but he knew not that he was the God. So now he has to put on this suit. This is as if the grace has given him this opportunity through the insights that they had and the truths that they have found. We see how the system actually works and what it was denoting to. And this is where your New Testament gets some of its mythology because it is an application of numerous schools of thought onto the Old Testament. That's all the New Testament is. It is not a new writing. Rather, it is an expand upon what was written in the beginning. It was another perspective on that. And it was an incorporation of newer thought forms as well. It was the perfecting of things. It's the reason I say that, because every manifestation of consciousness that transcends previous levels, degrees of consciousness, becomes new. And it's a new creation in its own right. Yet, all other thought forms and creation are incorporated into that new creation. It is not separate. It's just another covering. It's just another veil. Look from the core, or transcend above all these things and look down through, and you will see them all as one, as they are interconnected and interlinked to form one picture, to form one existence. So it goes on and it says, from the great God who created away souls, who eateth hearts, who feedeth upon offal, who keepeth what in the darkness, who dwelleth in the secret abode. Those who live in sin fear him. Who is this? It is Suti, but others say it is Tamamu, the soul of Keb. Hail Kefer, Kefer, in thy boat. The two companies of the gods are in thine boat. The two companies of God are in thy boat. Deliver thou the Osiris, the scribe Ani, whose word is true, from the watchers who pass sentences of doom, who have been appointed by the God Nebuchadnezzar to protect him and to fasten the fetters on his foes, and who slaughter in the torture chambers. There is no escape from their fingers. May they never stab me with their knife. May I never fall helpless into their chambers of torture. I have never done the things which the gods hate. I am he who is pure in the mesquite chamber, and saffron cakes have been brought unto him in tent. Who is this? It is Skipper in his boat. It is Ra himself. As concerning the watchers who pass sentences of doom, they are the apes, Isis, and Nephthys. As concerning the things which the gods hate, they are acts of deceit and lying. He who passes through the place of purification within the mesquite chamber is Anpu, or Anubis, as the Grecians say, who is hard by the coffer, which containeth the inward parts of Osiris. He to whom saffron cakes have been brought in turn is Osiris. Others, however, say that the saffron cakes in tent represent heaven and earth, and others say that they represent Shu, the strengthener of the two lands in Ensu, and others say that they represent the eye of Eru, lion god, and that tent in the burial place of Osiris, Tem, has buried thine house, and the double lion god hath laid the foundations of thine habitation. Lo, medicaments have been brought. Eru purifieth Set, and Set strengtheneth, and Set purifieth, and Eru strengtheneth. The Osiris, the scribe Ani, whose word is truth, before Osiris has come into this land, and he has taken possession thereof. With his 2 feet he is Tem, and he is in the city. Turn back, turn back, O Rehu, whose mouth sinneth, whose head moveth. Turn thou back before his strength. Another reading is, turn thou back from he who keepeth watch, and is himself unseen. Let the Osiris Ani be safely guarded. He is Isis. He is found with her hair spread over him. He is shaken out. It is shaken out over his brow. He who was conceived by Isis and engendered by Nephthys, and they cut away from him the things which should be cut from him. Fear followeth after thee. Terror is about thine arm. Thou hast been embraced for millions of years by arms. Mortals go round about thee. Thou smitest down the mediators of thine foes, and thou seizest the arms of the power of darkness. Thy two sisters, Isis and Nephthys, are given to thee for thy delight. Thou hast created that which is in Kira, Aha, and that which is Anu. Every god feareth thee, for thou art exceedingly great. And terrible thou avengest every god on the man who crushes them, and thou shootest arrow at him. Thou lovest according to thy will. Thou art Ucheta, the lady of flame. Evil befalleth those who set themselves up against thee. What is this? Hidden in form, given of men, who is the name of the tomb? He who seeth what is on his hand is the name of Keru, or as others say it, it is the name of the block. Now he whose mouth sinneth and whose head moveth, he is the phallus of Osiris, but others say it is the phallus of Ra. They're talking about the mind's eye. Thou spreadest thy hair, and I shake it out over his brow. It said concerning Isis, who hideth her hair in her hair, and throweth it around about her. Uchet, the lady of flame, is the eye of Ra. So we see that in this Egyptian mythology, or in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, or as it is called in Kemet, the book of coming forth by light, we see we are to put on these gods when we pass through the underworld. We see these things now with that understanding. We are no longer looking for a suit of the dead. We don't want the suit of the dead. We want the suit of the living God, which is what the Christ is. It is this that is the suit that we are to put on. The suit of Christ. No longer waiting to die and become Osiris. No, we are to become the Christ now. As Heru did when he came to resurrect Osiris, he walked in full power when he was doing these things. So we were with Brother Sanchez's video yesterday. You spoke about holograms and things. I found something very interesting about the hands. The hands can depict a lot of things. There is a lot of symbology within the formations of your hands. For instance, if you look at this, you would see that it is two pyramids, an upper and a lower pyramid, with the plane of existence in the middle of it. So upon the plane of existence is where the hologram is. The bottom pyramid would be that encompasses Sheol. So the gap at the bottom would be Sheol. The gap at the top would obviously be the heaven. The plane of existence would be the earth. Now if I take this and as it look, we have two hemispheres of our brain. Alright? Two some say forms of consciousness. The reasoning side, the left side, and the creative side, the right side. Or, as your book refers to it, the judgments of God and the blessings of the Christ. So, when these two energies come and the short circuit happens in your brain, you are born from above, you are born with the fire, and your Christ oil is risen up, and you become anointed, and as you become the Christ, we can see it in this way. The two go and they touch. Alright? So this is your plane of existence. This is your eyes when it is closed. It's formed like this. The lighting is very bad here. So this should be how we are seeing. The lighting is messing with me. They don't want me to show you guys this thing. So this is how it would be. Alright? But when it is unified and it is brought into a oneness, the field of vision is opened, and thine mind's eye brings forth light, and the mirrors that receive the reflections of said light, that we see the different emanations of light. We see the myriad of light, and we receive them, and we use them to heal ourselves, to heal those around us, because when we are healed, everybody that you encounter is healed. Everybody that has encountered you over your lifetime is healed. When you break curses, they break curses. And likewise, when they break curses, you break curses, for you are one. There is no separation at all. So we see that simple demonstration of how you should be seeing your mind's eye open, and this union of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, or Isis and Ra, the mother, the father, right? And they produce, obviously, in their own image and likeness. Remember, they are emanations of the nine. And anything multiplied by nine, the answer of that, which would be a two-digit number, when added, will equal nine. For example, 9 times 9 is 81. 9 times 2 is 18. So the infinite one, the 1 and the 8, is 9. Again, it is the lower light, the lower Shekinah, and the higher Shekinah merging and becoming one, bringing forth the sun. So even if you add to 9, if you add anything to 9, whatever number you add to 9, the answer would equal that number. For instance, if it is 5 plus 9, it equals 14. 1 and 4 would be 5. 9 is the only number with this property, with this capability. Therefore, it is the highest emanation. And when we come to the end of 9, we enter through a portal returning unto 1. So going through the 9 emanations of light, we will return to 1 light. There is no other way to see this. I know I'm just throwing out broad things, but there's a reason for this. I'm not here to spoon feed anybody. This is for those that are diligent in their seeking. The things I am giving and saying are to be researched and not just taken as whole truth. Like I said, I'm not perfect. There might be a bit of pollution of the ego in these things. It is for you to discern this. For you cannot say, I made you do anything. You cannot say, I made you believe the way that you believe. For it is your consciousness that chooses this. Not me, not anybody, not a deity, but you and your consciousness, which is one. For you are your consciousness. You are not this body. You are not this plane of existence. You are not even the multiverse. But you are that essence of consciousness that you are trying to bring an increase to. But what are you increasing? For everything is already in you. Not that it is increasing. It is that you, your vision, your clairvoyance is now being used. And in this clairvoyance, you get to see more of the light. You get to interact with more of the light. It was never to be about what others say, what others have seen, what others have said will come. It has always been about your pure personal experience. Once you get this, things make more sense. Things are very, very vibrant in the approach towards you, and you are vibrant in your response towards them. So we need to move out of this individual lies concept that we have been socially programmed into, and understand that we are a collective of one. Our I am is one, not many. Our light is one, not many. Only one. It's always only been one. So let me just see. I wanted to do a few readings. Okay. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is the nervous system from the root to the brain. Now it is all interconnected. There is a reason I'm showing that. Because you see on the background picture, we have Osiris and Jesus standing with the shepherd's staff and the whip of correction. The shepherd's staff, the way that it is depicted, it sort of, kind of symbolizes the spine and the skull coming around. And if you do place that on there, you would see that where the point of the the hook part of the shepherd staff, it's this part right here where it comes down. It's as if though it is pointing to where on King Tut's death mask you would see the serpent on his forehead. This is a symbol of being anointed with the Christ oil. Being anointed as David was anointed with the horn. Why was it the horn? Because when your pineal gland secretes the serotonin and the melatonin, it stands straight up as a horn. That's also why Moses was depicted with horn. So this is the reason for the anointing with the horn, because the anointing is coming out of the horn of the pineal gland through the crown onto the forehead, marking you here, anointing you with the oil. Now, from that, we look at the whip of correction. What does this mean to the body then, if that is the spine and the cranium and the symbolism of being anointed through the spine? Because remember, Jesus died at 33. 33 vertebrae of the spine. Jacob's ladder, the spine. The place where he fought, pineal, pineal. Right? So the whip of correction, the way that it is depicted, could represent, not saying it's 100% accurate again, it could represent the brainstem and the nerve. Why would I say that this is the whip of correction? Because it is through the nerves that we get sensations of feelings of pain. When, for instance, you get pricked by a thorn on a rose, you feel pain for a moment. The pain alerts you, and you will never again just nilly-willy touch a rose. For you have been corrected by the pain that you felt. So the whip of correction is your nerve. It's your nerves and your brain stem, which connects the brain to the nervous system through the spine. So when the two are put together and made one, again, when the two are put together and made one. So this is significant because the whip of correction, we can see in the physical realm what it is. In the spiritual realm, we obviously it would be the correcting of your negative responses to these things that are happening to you in the physical realm. This should be the correction in the spirit. Because the first time you get pricked by that rose, you would swear or you would react in a, because you shocked for a moment. You didn't expect that. A beautiful plant, you didn't think that this thing has this defenses. Much the same when somebody attacks you, you have defenses. And your defenses is the whip of correction to the one that is attacking you. So understanding your responses to things is very important. Understanding the way and the reason for your feelings that arise in certain times, certain situations is also very important. We need to get into the mind of God We need to start aligning our mind to see as God's mind, or to understand as God's mind. We need to start having our eyes and our ears also do that. This is things that we practice in our daily life. We are on the constant watch of things. We are the watcher of the watchers. You are the awareness of the awareness. This is what it is about. Becoming the awareness of the awareness. Because as your awareness is heightened, your consciousness is expanded. Your understanding is also elevated. And your vision becomes clear. So, let me see. What is it that I wanted to read? Oh. So, before we go to the Midrash and that breakdown that they have in there of Jonah, I want to read something. It's called The Secret 144 Cells. I shared this on Facebook. It says, I hope you heard about the 144. That being a divine number. Well, in your thymus gland, which sits over here, under the collarbone, known as the higher heart chakra, or the seat of the throne, the seat of the soul, the throne of the soul. Right? You have 144 actinic cells, actinic cells. And what actinic means is these cells cannot die. Basically, these cells are immortal. These cells are connected to the divine infinite source. There is an all-knowing wisdom here in the center of your chest. The thymus gland is the door between us and the infinite. Everything in nature is a formula. Everything is mathematical equation. When we are presented with falsehood, the formula is not complete, and it makes the thymus gland shrink. Anything that is truth opens it. Behind the thymus, there is an actinic cell. Akine is the Lemurian concept that means the essence of who we are. The electrons of these cells pass through the atomic core, creating an infinite loop, which means that these cells cannot die, they are immortal. So, when you are operating out of the throne of your soul, out of the heart, and your higher heart is open, you will feel this um, reaction and pulsations of energy running throughout your body as it goes from the tips of your toes to the top of your crown. You will feel this. We need to also start looking into the science of breath and things. For a long time, we as men have not been breathing properly. We are only filling about a third of the lungs. We are not fully filling our lungs, and we are not fully filling our body with oxygen. We are not circulating the right amount of elements within us. So there is certain breathing techniques that you can find in the Kriya Yoga Sutra, and in certain Egyptian studies as well. Will be the science of Ankh, the science of the Ankh. There is breathing techniques there. In the Kriya Yoga, and in the Tibetan tantric system as well. There are breath exercises there that teach us how to rise the energy from the base of the spine into the crown. This transmutation of energy opens up the mind's eye for deeper insight, and it opens up the spectrum of light that comes in. It also increases the light that pulsates out. These breathing exercises, because it is cellular, nuclear explosion. So each cell in your body, as it is interacted with throughout these exercises, explode and is in a constant thanksgiving for the life emanations of light that are passing through it. You can have cellular orgasm in this way, but it is on you and how you practice these things. Because in the beginning they will be hard. Why they will be hard is because you will first need the mind to create the pathway. But the mind likes to play tricks. The mind likes to distract. So the mind always wants to be busy. And during these exercises, it's about quieting the mind, becoming the silence, becoming the nothing, focusing solely on the breath and the energy that is rising and falling within you during certain points of the breath. These things first need to be formulated with the mind. Yes. So to an extent they are intellectually understood and then put into practice and experimentation. They formulate an experience, and after a certain time of practice, the mind is no longer needed as the energy pathways have been laid. So now, when breathing and doing your exercises, the energy flows freely through these pathways, not needing to be guided anymore. So, who is the one that does this work? If not the mind no more? Is it the same one that was there when the mind was there? Or is it an entirely different one? Or you see, it is the same, because this one was the one that was observing the mind during these stages and during these carvings of the pathways and the opening of the channels. It was that one that carries on when the mind is no longer. It is that one that also carries on when the body is no longer. Is that one any different than you? Has that one been before you? So we're reading from the Upanishad should give you a better understanding of everything I just said. As a rivers, as rivers flowing into the ocean find their peace, their final peace, and their name and form disappear. Even so, the wise become free from name and form and enter into the radiance of the Supreme Self, that one that pervades all of creation, that one from which all creation stems, is to be found here, is to be seen here, is to be interacted with here. But how is this one seen? How is he interacted with? By whom and through whom? And are these any different than him? So, let me see. I want to do a reading from the Zohar about the different lights. Um, can't find it now. So anyway, I'm gonna just do it off the top of my head. In the Zohar, it explains about when creation took place, alright, and the darkness, as you call it, or as it is termed in your book, is actually the passive light. So this is what we would call the mother, the passive light. So there was no active light in it, in the passive light. Yet the mother and the father are not separate. But when he said, "Let there be light," it was the emanation of the Father. It was the active light that sprang forth in the midst of the passive light. And why we have this defective light or defective thought form of lower natures and vibrations is because when the light and the dark were separated, there were parts of the light and parts of the passive light that were shredded, they were torn apart, not in harmony, not where they should be. And it is our duty as the form of man, even though it was said by the Father before going through with all of this, it was a reluctance, and because of the reluctance of him to participate within this creation, but the mother wanted this. She wanted this creation. But the Father said, because he could see the end, that man will surely transgress and he will sin and he will be against us that are his creator. Surely he will try to exalt himself in all of these things. But still she wanted this. So he gave the activation of light. But because of this um, reluctance, there was a defect that came forth. Now we are to correct these things. We are to put in the ordinances. for the opening of the Sabbath, the opening of the seventh emanation of light. Because remember, we are the sixth emanation of light. So we open the sixth emanation and we close the sixth emanation, opening the seventh emanation. So yes, I think it was in Job or in Psalm, and they asked about the ordinances. Yes, this is a task for you to do, and you are supposed to do it. But how do you do it? Is by bringing correction within yourself, by bringing harmony, acceptance, and love to even the darkest part of yourself, even that which you hate the most. This is what it is, to put things in its ordinance, in its proper place. You are the one that puts in the waymaker. You are the waymaker. You are the light that are set as guides to and from the spirit, from the terrestrial through the celestial and beyond. It is you that goes through all these things. You can be in any emanation of light, but it is not at your will. It is not for your own self gratification that you should be doing this. When we are doing these things, what is the purpose of them? I do this not for self gratification, not to hold myself to any higher standard than anybody else. No, I do this for the betterment of all that can hear and can see, all that are of me, because I can only speak to emanations of myself. I cannot speak to an emanation lower than me, or can I? Because I perceive that too, for I am in and through that. I am beyond and below that. I am all these things. This is how to enter into the mind of God, is to start seeing yourself as this pureness of light, as this truth. It is to become this. It is to be the embodiment. So we're gonna go into the midrash. Um, this does a very nice breakdown on Jonah. So let me see. Um, okay, so I'm gonna start at this part with the Barakat 18b, where it says, maggots are harsh for the dead, as a needle for the flesh of the living. And from where do we know that the soul mourns over it? In Job 14:22 it says, but his flesh pains him, and his soul mourns over it. That is the meaning of the beast, as it is destroyed like a beast. And therefore it is stated from the beast, because from the cattle and from the sheep, they will make offerings in atonement. So they are making offerings in atonement for this beast with another beast. They are offering up a like image. But that is not the sacrifices that we are to make. That is not the offerings we are to give. The sacrifices and the offerings are the disciplining of the flesh and the mind. It is, for instance, the flesh offerings or the offerings of meat, is the sacrifice of meal. It is not gratifying the flesh whenever the flesh thinks that it is hungry, or whenever the flesh wants something sweet or something sour. The flesh wants a certain sensation. No, discipline the flesh. Don't always feed into the flesh because you have been programmed that you need to eat thrice a day. Who told you this? There are days that you don't need to eat, yet you serve the flesh. Why don't you serve the spirit the way that you serve the flesh? For you are quick to move when the flesh needs something. But when it comes to spiritual things, you are slow to respond. You you are slow to put to the test these things. What is the significance of fasting? And what were you supposed to be doing in the time you were fasting? Well, meditating on the word, breathing exercises, breath work, shadow work, becoming the awareness, watching the mind and the thoughts that come and go, not taking hold of any of them, walking through the market of the mind and not buying, not partaking in whatever the mind is portraying, because these illusions of Maya are tests that the mother throws in front of you. Will you gratify the flesh or the spirit? For you have asked for spiritual increase, that before you could receive that, even when you pray properly, which is to pray and live in the end. So taking on the assumption that it is already done, that it is already here. And even when done like this, still before the manifestation, a test comes to see if you were earnest in your request and to see if you are worthy of receiving the thing that you have asked for. Is your consciousness at the proper level for these things? So we see that in Jonah, right, according to this thing, as I'm going to read it now, I'm looking for the proper line. Okay, so Jonah 2, verse 1. And the Lord designated a great fish, and Jonah fled from his God on the 5th day. Now, there's a reason I kept saying in this video, we are the 6th emanation of light. We are in the 6th day of creation. That is what the state of existence is. That is the realm that you are in. So the significance here, Jonah fled on the 5th day. So Jonah did flee from his purpose. But this is speaking spiritual truth now. This is the esoterics of this thing. So on the 5th day in the spirit, in the day of creation, Jonah fled. Where did he flee to though? For we see that Jonah still came into manifestation. We see that Jonah still got a flesh body. See, because Jonah fled. But the Most High being the Most High, Jonah thought he was fleeing in one direction when he fled to exactly where it is that he was to come into manifestation. He fled right into the 6th day and into his manifestation. This is the symbolism of him getting onto the boat. And as we read further, Then Jonah was told um, about the laws of the boat and things, and one should pay when he exits the boat. Payment would be due. Alright? When you come into manifestation here, a payment is due. What payment is that? That's all the notes that they take when you are born. Your weight, your height, and all these things, the time, the day, the weather, all these things. And then lastly, they take the soul print of the feet. Why do they do this? If you put your feet together, you'll see that there's a gap in the middle of your feet. What if this soul print with this particular gap marked out your celestial coordinate? And from here, they could always track and trace you in the spirit realm. Because we see the advancements of technology and the accuracy in the tracking of celestial bodies and things and extraterrestrial things. So what makes you think that they are not tracking you in the same way? Because I showed you how your body is in symbolism of a lot of other things. These things that they are searching for are the same things you are searching for. But the purpose that they want to use it for and your purpose, two different things. Yet it is of one emanation of light. So even the evil done in this world, don't be against it, because they are perfectly following through on the plan of the Most High. If you, as the children of the light, don't do your part, then they will supersede you, because they are doing their work, they are doing their part. It's now our time to come and do our part. Their time is over. But we cannot be set in a rulership if we are not ready for that type of responsibility. And that responsibility starts within you. We need to prove ourselves worthy during our trials, our tribulations, during this particular dispensation of time. We don't need to wait for anything. For all things are now. All things are here. It's never over there. Never behind you. It is never in front of you. It is here, now, in you. This is where it is experienced. And this is where it is interacted upon. Not outside. It is within. That all these things take place. All these things are within you. Let me just get to that part. So anyway, so Jonah, they decided to flee, knowing the scriptures. Alright, Jonah went through all these things. He said, upon the heavens is his glory. And if upon the earth his glory is there too, as it is stated in Isaiah 63. The whole earth is full of his glory. Behold, I will flee to the sea, and his glory is not stated there. So he went down to Jaffa, but he did not find a ship to board there. And the ship that Jonah would board upon was 2 days' journey away from Jaffa. In order to test Jonah, what did the Holy One, blessed be he, do? He brought a great storm in the sea and brought the ship quickly to Jaffa. And Jonah saw this, and he rejoiced in his heart and said, now that my path is straight in front of me. And he did not know that the Holy One, blessed be he, was causing the thing to let him know that his glory was there in the sea. He said to the boatman, I will come with you. And the way of all ships is that when a man exits from them, he gives his payment. But in the joy of Jonah's heart, he proceeded and gave his wage right away, as it is stated in Jonah 1:3. And Jonah arose to flee to Tarshish from in front of the Lord, and he gave his pay. And they traveled the distance of a day, and a great storm came upon them in the sea from the right and from the left. And the way of all ships is to come and go in peace. Now, in peace and quiet. Now, you see, here they're talking about the ship. And the way of all ships is to come and go in peace and quiet. Talking about you again. He's saying the way of all man is to come in peace and to go in peace. So we see, I lost my place now, is to come and go in peace. Alright? And the ship upon which Jonah boarded was in great distress to break apart, as it is stated in Jonah 1:4. And the Lord placed a great wind upon the sea. And the rabbi said, men of all the 70 languages were in the ship. Hold up. Hold up. Of all the 70 languages. That's all within you. It's all within you. The languages of the 7 chakras. So it is all the nations. Each chakra is a nation. So men of all the 70 languages were in the ship, and each and every one had his God in his hand. Significance here is, depending on in which chakra you are operating out of, your perception of God is to a certain degree, is to a certain understanding in a certain way. If you are in your root, you are fearful. If you are in your sacral, you have more sexual urges. If you are in your solar plexus, it is more about digesting the scriptures, internalizing the scriptures. If you are in your heart, it is more about feeling the scriptures. And if you are in your throat, it is more about professing the scriptures. And if you are in your mind's eye, it's more about an understanding of the scriptures. And if you are in your crown, it is about loving the scriptures. These are the nations and their God, and the way that they devote to their God. Understand that it's all within you, and your level of consciousness determines whether or not you can receive what I am saying to you. So don't say that what I speak is not true. For later in time, you might arrive at this state of consciousness, and then you will have to do some forgiving and some repenting. Why? Because you did not know at this moment what you will know. But even that moment of your expansion or your elevation of consciousness is here now. It is not then or to come. It is here. The thing is, you don't have the clairvoyance to foresee that. You cannot penetrate that veil, for you have not yet reached it. There is nothing wrong with that. You need to be in acceptance of where you are and who you are and how you want to live with the Most High. Because it is about you, your soul, and your God. There are no many gods. It is just your perception of God. It is your understanding of God. It is the degree of your consciousness, the degree of the brilliance of the light that shines forth. Have you become the crystalline base yet, where you can be as a diamond, and all the refraction of the myriad of light spectrum? Can you take all those refractions, transmute them, and bring them back into a oneness? Just as when a light is shown through a diamond, it goes and it refracts into all the colors of the light spectrum. But when it exits that diamond, it is again one light as it enters the diamond. Not Cuban zirconium that makes all this rainbow color effect. That's a defect. That's a defective light. For when you are truly aligned and thine eye is light, there won't be the myriad of colors when you are seen in your aura, but a pureness of the one true light. And whoever sees it will only see the reflection of their own light. For you emanate pure light, and it is then refracted by their mirror, and it is taken in by their mirror, and it is represented in a certain color, tone, frequency in their mind's eye. So the way you view your light and the way somebody else sees the emanation of your light might be different. For you can be in distress and view your light as diminished. Yet someone who comes across you in need of healing would gravitate towards you, for they see the fullness of your light. And you won't understand why these people keep coming to you. Because you have not embraced you, and you know not who you are. Therefore, you know not who you worship. I'm not saying gratify your ego, your personal self, the covering, don't know. The supreme one that is within you, the one that um, is animating all of this, that is illuminating all of this. That one we seek, that one we call to, and that one we embody, and we walk as. We are not fearful of what man has to say. So, if man wants to draw his sword because you claim to be that which you are, let him draw his sword. For if it is written that that sword is to kill you, he will be fulfilling perfectly the will of the Father. For then your time has come. This is the acceptance of being God and dying as a man. For you have come into this form from the formless. And when this form is taken off, you will be formless again. But that formlessness would be dependent on what? On your consciousness level, on the degree of your light that you have worked on, that you have polished and brightened. You see, it's not like the church says, just profess this with your mouth. And don't worry, all things will be done. You will receive everything. No, not about professing with your mouth. It is about experiencing these things. It is about feeling the thing as it is, not by saying them. So we see that all the nations were in the ship. You are the ship. You are also Jonah. And every man called to his God, and their God answered not. And then they said, the God that answers and saves us from this distress, he is the true God. And they stood, and each man cried out in the name of his God, but it did not help. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, the chaos of Maya, Jonah is diving into himself. Jonah is meditating. As they stated this way, Jonah dozed off and was sleeping in the distress of his soul. Wait a minute. They prayed to be saved from the distress of the sea. Jonah was sleeping in the distress of his soul. So the distress of the sea was an emanation of the distress of Jonah's soul. So he dozed off and was sleeping in the distress of his soul. And the captain came to him and said to him, behold, you are standing between death and life, and you are dozing off. From which people are you? He said to them, I am a Hebrew. They said to him, and we have not heard, and have we not heard the God of the Hebrew is great? Cry out to your God. And in Jonah 1:6 we see, as they say, maybe he will do for us like all of his wonders at the Red Sea or Red Sea, as they stated here. The word that was translated to red is reed in the original. It says Red Sea, not Red Sea. Uh, so he said to them, "This distress has come upon you." Look at this. Jonah knowing that it's all from within him. Says that the distress has come upon you because of me, as I am fleeing from in front of him, as I thought that his glory was not in the sea. And now I see that his glory is on the dry land and in the sea. He said to them, because of me, love me and put me in the sea, and the sea will be quiet upon you. And then in Jonah, that's Jonah 1:12. The men did not accept from Jonah to drop him into the sea. And so they cast lots. And it is stated in Jonah 2:7. And they cast lots. The lot fell upon Jonah. What did they do? They took the vessels that were on the ship and threw them to the sea to make themselves lighter, but it did not help a bit. They sought to return to dry land, but they were not able, as it is stated in Jonah 1:13. And the men rowed, and then it just says, etc. What did they do? They took Jonah and stood him upon the edge of the ship and said, God of the world, Lord, do not put innocent blood upon us, as we do not know what is the nature of this man. Yet he says to us with his mouth, because of me, as this distress come upon you. They placed him into the sea until his knees, and the sea stopped from its fury. They then took him back towards them, and the sea stormed against them. They placed him into the sea until his navel, and the sea stopped from its fury. They then took him back towards them, and the storm started against them. They plunged him completely in the sea, and the sea was immediately quiet from its fury, as it is stated in Jonah 1:15. And they lifted Jonah and placed him, and the Lord designated a great fish. This now goes on in the expansion or the esoteric interpretation. It says that the Lord designated a great fish to swallow Jonah. And Jonah was in the inward of the fish 3 days, 3 nights, and Jonah entered its mouth like a man enters a large synagogue. And the two eyes of the fish were opened, giving light to Jonah. A pearl was hanging in the inwards of the fish, and it would give light to Jonah, like the sun lights up in its strength in the afternoon. And Jonah could see everything that was in the sea and that was in the depth, as it is stated in Psalms 97:11. Light is planted for the righteous, and joy for the righteous of heart. The fish said to Jonah, do you know that my time has come to enter into the mouth of Leviathan? He said to it, take me there, and I will save you. And my soul, it took him to the Leviathan. He said to the Leviathan, because of you, I have come to see your dwelling place in the sea. And not only that, but in the future I will come down to put a rope on your neck and to bring you up to the great, for a great meal for the righteous one. He showed it its seal from Abraham, our father. Okay, just break this down quick. So, Leviathan is a representation of your ego. The sea is a representation of the gratification of the flesh, or partaking in the carnal world, within the world of manifestation. That would be the sea. Alright? So when we are engaged in the carnal world, in the world of manifestation, there are storms that arise within our immediate reality and within our mind's eye. There are achings of the body as we go through certain things and we engage in the world. But once we are disciplined in our doing and we start doing the inner work, the shadow work, the inner healing, meditating and delving inwardly, there is no more storm of the world. For now the world is not seen from the surface perspective. No, rather it is seen from the source perspective, the inner perspective, as the witness of the witness. You are viewing. These are not two separate things. The one is just the awareness of the actions and the contemplation of consciousness, the interactions of consciousness being watched and being seen as they come and go. So we see that Jonah was in this fish. The fish, which I forgot to mention, is a representation of religion. Also why the previous dispensation of time was the religious order of things, was represented by the fish of Pisces. This is the fish that had swallowed Jonah, who is you, who is your soul, who is the one that has come to attain the salvation, to go and accomplish the work, even though at first you fled from these great tasks. You fled perfectly into this incarnation, and you fled perfectly into the fulfillment of your purpose. So don't be discouraged because you might not be where you want to be yet. You might not understand the way that you think that you should. For your level of understanding is correct as it is. Even if you are still stuck in the fish, it does not matter. For when your soul does cry out, the fish will spew you out. How does the fish spew you out? The fish spews you out when your consciousness is too large to be enclosed and encapsulated within this way of life. For you have transcended that. This is when the fish spews you out. This happens spontaneously. It is on you to heed the callings from within, to do the work as they have been ordained for you, to do the research as you have been asked, not by me, not by anybody else that you are learning from, but by the Spirit in you. When you're hearing these things and a thought comes in and says, "Ooh, I need to look deeper into this. I need to gain a better understanding of this." That's a calling. Answer. Do it. Don't be afraid. Don't think it's too overwhelming or too hard, because then that's what it will be to you. For it is a reflection of you, and it is a reflection of what you think it to be. So if the task seems too daunting, it will be too daunting. If the task seems fairly easy, that's what it will be. Even the easiest of tasks are the hardest of tasks, because the courage is in the first step of the embarkment of the journey and of the task being fulfilled. So we see that Jonah says to this thing that he's gonna come back down and he's gonna put a rope around its neck and he's gonna take it up to be a meal for the righteous one. So if it is your ego and you have to go back down for it, then this should be your ascension. This should be going to the root chakra, the base of the spine. Alright? And lifting that essence of who you are. Now this is a pureness. But when it is first awakened, alright, it's going to try and fight you, because you need to prove yourself worthy of this energy. You need to prove yourself worthy of this thing. It is going to fight you. And if it can overcome you, if it can kill you, it will. So you should have that same mindset about it. Because if it gets the chance to kill, it's killing. And this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do, is to kill it first. So Jonah makes this bold claim that he's gonna go down, he's gonna rise that thing up, he's gonna capture it, and he's gonna take it up to the throne of God, which is here in the brain, the pineal gland. And he's gonna slay it. So are you willing to do this? Can you capture your ego and slay it? Can you drop all thought, form, and concept, in other words? Can you drop every single program and become the nothingness? For all that, when you are still stuck in religion or in the world, or you have not yet come to this understanding of non-duality, right? And you're still seeing two separate things, you and God. Um, you see things from a certain perspective, right? So when he's making these claims, it is you making these claims. Now a lot won't be able, you will think that you cannot drop all concept. How are you going to love? How are you going to understand if you have no concept to base on? If there is no concept in you, and there is no thought form in you, and there is no form, that means that all things you can be based on, and all things can be based on you, because you are no concept, you are no form. Therefore, whatever it is that you look at, you formulate concepts and form. You imprint these things when you are not these things. For they have no concept or form of their own other than you. You are the one that denotes form and concept, not the book, not the pastor. You. You are the one who limits the limitless. Yes, you're going to say, oh, but I learned it from them. Well, can he do anything within your body? No. So therefore, how could he, as your religious leader, have limited your consciousness if he cannot do anything within your body, and your consciousness in itself is not in your body? It is through and about your body. It is through and about this entirety of existence. It is what encompasses all of these things. So we see the bold claim that he makes. So this is his soul crying out for freedom, for salvation, for Yeshua. This is what is happening when he's making this claim. And the Leviathan saw the mark of Abram. And as soon as it saw it, it fled the journey of 2 days from before Jonah. He said to the fish, behold, I have saved you from the mouth of Leviathan. Now show me all that is in the sea and in the depths. And so it showed him the great river of the waters, the ocean, as it is stated. Upon up to my soul was the deep, and it showed him the paths of the Reed Sea, the paths of the Reed Sea, as it is stated. The reeds are twined around my head. Reeds are twined around my head. Doesn't that sound familiar to your Christ story? And we see that they're talking about the Sea of Reeds, the River Nile. So again, somebody crossing the living waters. So we see these things, and it showed him the place from where the breakers of the sea and its waves go out, as it is stated. All your breakers and waves passed over me, and it showed him the pillars of the earth in its foundation, as it is stated. The bars of the earth were around me forever. The bars of the earth were around me forever. Just see. Do I have this picture that I'm looking for? So as you can see there, that's the base of the spine. And you see how it makes all those lines that interconnect to the center. Those are the bars of the earth that were all around him. That makes a pyramidal figure within which light is concentrated. This is where that golden white orb of light sits. This is the orb and the position of the orb when your resurrection takes place. Your awakening. When the 12 cranial pairs of nerves are touched. When the 24 elders cast their crowns before the throne of God and the electrical short circuit takes place, and that you are split then from east to west, and like a flash of lightning, it runs down your spine, hitting the base of your spine in this ball, and then taking that orb of energy up to the throne of God. For as soon as the child was born, the child was taken up to the throne of God. So we see that it showed him this. And then it says, from the belly of the pit, I cried out. The belly of the pit. We know the pit and the abyss is the end of the spine, right? And we see that he cried out from under the chamber of God. And then he cried out, you heard my voice. And it showed him under the chamber of God, as it is stated. I descended to the base of the mountain. From here we learn that Jerusalem stands on 7 mountains. And he saw the stone of the foundation there, set in the depth, as he saw the sons of Korah standing and praying upon it, as it is said. And in the fish said to Jonah, behold, you are standing under the chamber of the Lord. Pray, and you shall be answered immediately, Jonah. To the fish, Jonah stated, stand in this place that you are standing, as I would like to recite a prayer. Now, before we go on, so here we see that it descended to the depths, right? And it saw the foundation. And from here, he saw the 7 mountains. The 7 mountains are the 7 chakras. But the chamber that he was under, right? Jonah was standing here in the heart chakra, in the emerald city. He was standing. And under the chamber of God is the higher heart chakra that they are referring to. He was standing under this because when you have united your mind and heart, logic and feeling, or thought and feeling, rather, it is emanated out of the higher heart into the field language of love, right? And then it brings forth manifestation. So Jonah was told from within himself and stuck in the religion soul. He saw the truth, and he was told And when he prays upon this specific stone, which is the thymus gland, this is where the pulsations of emotions take place, right? Where light is turned into movement and vibratory effect. That if you pray there, you would be answered immediately. So, when you assume the feeling, like Neville Goddard said in one of his books, one of his lectures, when you assume the feeling of the prayer being answered, the prayer is answered. When you assume the feeling of whatever it is that you have requested, it has been received and answered immediately. It might take time for it to come into manifestation within this reality, but as soon as you spoke the word, it has already started and it has already finished. For there is no dispensation of time in the spirit. It's only in the physical that we see time the way that we do. So he told the fish to stand and that he would like to pray. And he began to pray in front of the Holy One. Blessed be he, Master of the universe. You have been called the one that brings down and raises up. Very important. So he who cast me down shall raise me up. He who deceiveth me shall correct me. He who makes my bed in hell is there with me. All these different things saying the same thing. It's just different perceptions of the same light form or light emanation. So we see there, Jonah says, you have been called the one that brings down and raises up. Behold, I have gone down. Now raise me up. You have been called the one that brings death and that brings life. Behold, my soul has reached death. Now bring me life. And he was answered until this came out of his mouth. And he was not answered until this came out of his mouth. That which I have vowed, I will perform. That which I have vowed to bring up the Leviathan in front of you, I will perform. On the day of Yasharal's Yeshua, as it is stated, but I with loud thanksgiving will sacrifice to you that which I have vowed, and immediately the Holy One, blessed be he, indicated to the fish, and it spewed out Jonah out to the dry land. And the Lord said to the fish, and it spewed out Jonah into the dry land. When the sailors saw all of the great miracles, signs, and wonders that the Holy One, blessed be he, did with Jonah, they got up, and every man cast away his God, as it is stated. So here we see that the story of Jonah is not just about doom. Here we see that the story of Jonah is actually scripture of self-realization and going within so that the dispensation of religion can be done away with. We are not to have any kings over us, any religious leaders over us. For we are God And what God needs a king over him or a leader over him. You see, we have this misconception that has been given to us by societal programming that says we can do as we please, and all we have to do is cry out Yeshua, and it is done away with. So when do you take responsibility, and when do you step in to being the God? When do you take up your salvation? When do you do any of the work for this thought form of a deity that you have created? Could be detrimental to you. For what entities or forms of life are filling this thought form of created deity and possessing it, and thus interacting with you? Are they of the lower light or the higher emanations of light? The lower Shekinah or the higher Shekinah? Are they of those principalities and dark forces in the lower heavens? Or are they of the brotherhood of light and the emanations from the higher heavens? Which is it that you have given access to this externalized car that you have created, just as the Egyptians, so that the Grecians could fathom and grasp the concept of the system that is being built for the enslavement of this very generation that we walk in now? Have you externalized your car and allowed others to come and be your car, your spirit? If this is the case, it is time to take your external car, reintroduce it to yourself, eradicating all negative thought forms within it, embodying it again, internalizing it again, and transmuting these dark forces or passive light into active light of love. This is the transcendence of religion. This is the truth of the teachings of the Hamasya. This is the teachings of the light as it was and as it will be. We are only preparing mentally for the physical things that are to come. For what we are told is extraterrestrial are not those things. We are about to witness the celestial, the brotherhood of light, the emanations of higher light are about to manifest themselves. For those of us that can see, we have already been seeing these dimensions open. Unfortunately, I couldn't make videos of the things that I've seen because my camera, unfortunately, does not have the capability to record the night sky or the stars therein. But a few weeks ago, I think it was, I looked out at Orion's belt, and to the right of it, I saw a cluster of new lights that were never there before. It was denoted that these things might just be because of the change of season. Well, not that, because when I asked others, do they see these things? They said no. And that let me know the reason they do not see it, because their mind's eye is still closed to it. They are not on the frequency to interact and to see these things. I see wonders every day. I see movement within the sky that is not of a terrestrial military, to flipping past to be earthly. And it's too far out to even be earthly. For according to all these people that have space program, the highest they've ever been, low Earth orbit. That's the highest that they have ever been. Yet they're telling you people they've got things at the end of the galaxy that is recording. They've been to the moon and they've done all these type of things. I wonder how far low Earth orbit really goes if they've got things over there. Or if they've done any of these things that they say they have done. We know that there are observatories around the world that are watching in the sky. Everything is not being revealed to us. Therefore, we need to attune to the spirit, so that even though they don't reveal in the physical form these things, within spirit we know them. Within spirit we foresee them. Within spirit we are warned beforehand. The spirit is so active these days. It's unbelievable. I no longer send messages for my video to say that I have a video. And Brother BC can confirm this. Because I only say in my spirit, let him know that I have a video. And let him confirm to me that he has received my messages for the video. Because if this is from you, oh Lord, then let me know. And whenever I come onto a live, which is very rarely these days, because I've been so busy delving into these things, that when I do come onto the live and I greet, immediately the confirmation comes forward to state that he knows that I have a video and he's waiting on me. Now, I don't ask the spirit for any specific form of a confirmation of the message being received. Yet as soon as I hear that, the light flashes. And I know who it is that is giving me these things that I am told to reveal to you people. So, I just want to close out with something. With a quote from Neville Goddard, from one of his books that says, one day man will realize that his own I amness is God. He has been seeking throughout the ages, and that his own sense of awareness, his consciousness of being, is the one and only reality. The most difficult thing for man to really grasp is this, that the I amness in himself is God. It is his true being or father state, the only state he can be sure of. So I want to end with that because I want you to meditate on that, to test that theory, because that's what it will be at first. But at the end of it, it would have become an experience. So, with that being said, I want to thank Brother BC for the time, for the platform, for allowing me to dedicate my birthday into servitude of the Lord, to bring forth more emanations of light and truth, to show these things to the people, and for allowing me this time. So I'd just like to thank BC, and I'd like to turn the platform back over to him to close out in whichever way he sees fit. Brother BC. Brother BC, you still there? Brother BC. Oh, shalom, blessings everybody. Thank you for your time and for allowing me to do this message. Blessings and peace to all.